How do people find your church? Very important question to ask, and one that many churches are pretty unhappy with the results, let's say. In fact, the answer may not be what you want, because if people search for your church may be buried down on page 3 of the search results, or maybe it doesn't show up at all. Well, that's a problem, because here's the truth. 75% of people never scroll past page 1 of search results. If you're not on the first page, it's kind of like you don't even exist. Lifeway research found that 80% of people searching for a new church start online. In fact, online is the new front door for most churches. It doesn't matter whether it's rural or urban, or where your church is, in what context it's in. People search for churches first online. In fact, most of these searches, they're not searching for your church by its specific name. Normally, they're typing in things like churches near me, or family-friendly churches, or youth ministry near me, or something of the sort. If your website is not optimized for the best results, then you're missing out on the opportunity to connect with these people. In fact, if you don't have your Google business profile already claimed and then developed, already have things posted and updated, then you're missing out on potential people that could find you. Same thing with other online sources, but that Google business profile is critical. But today, I don't have time to unpack exactly what to do and how to develop that to give you a good online presence. But we're going to assume, for today's understanding, for what we're looking at today, that that's an important part. It's important. So even though we don't have time to talk about how to optimize, I want us to talk today about what are people searching for when they're searching online for churches, and how will they find your church when they're looking for a church. Well, what I want to do is I want to look at the top 7 searches that happen on Google. This is by volume. In other words, the top things in the United States that are searched for when people are looking for a church include these items, which the returns, the search numbers, are in the hundreds of thousands. In fact, the top search is right at 1 million searches per month on these. So let's walk through these 7 top searches and then talk briefly about how your church can make sure that you're representing these things online for the people who may be searching for a church in your immediate area. The very top search, the thing that people are most searching for, is simply this. It's the quality and relevance of preaching. The quality and relevance of preaching, or teaching, you could say as well. This is really important. In fact, according to the Pew Research Center, they had a report which stated that 83% of church searches or seekers said that the quality of preaching was very important. So how do you as a pastor consistently deliver relevant, biblical, and applicable messages? That's a question you need to answer if you're a pastor. And how do you communicate that to people so that they kind of get that when they arrive at your church, if they come? And how do you communicate that online so that they have some sense of understanding this is what they're going to get when they come to your particular church. And how do you know that those messages are landing? Now, let's be honest, all of us as preachers love to get the attaboys at the back door or the front after church when our little old ladies or the members come up to us and go, "Oh, that was a great sermon, preacher." But that doesn't really tell you that your message is landing and hitting the needs of the people. What are the ways that you're trying to measure that after each service and evaluate that? All right, let's look at the number two thing. The number two thing most search for is feeling welcomed and a friendly environment. Feeling welcomed and a friendly environment. 79% of those who are searching feel like being welcomed by leaders was a key factor. Very important. So, what does welcoming look like in your church? If you're a smaller attendance church, you're not going to have a big cafe or a big welcome center or some of those kind of things. You might have some banners. You might have a small welcome table in the vestibule somewhere of your church. If you're a small church plant, you may have some ways of doing that, but what do you do? What is it that you intentionally do to help people feel welcomed? Very important. Now, how do you help those first-time guests come to your congregation? How do you help those first-time guests feel like they're at home without compromising your gospel message? What do you do? Well, there are a couple of things you can do kind of practically that help your people to understand, particularly if you're in like an open country rural congregation. Many of the people who come to your church, even if it's a small congregation, what we call a SAC church, a smaller attendance church, in that kind of church, oftentimes you have multiple generations of families, 2, 3 generations of families within the congregation. They all know each other. So when they come to church, whether it be for Bible study or for worship, they just kind of assume, hey, I know people. And if somebody new comes in, oftentimes they're overlooked. I mean, I have actually sat in worship services. This has happened multiple times where they go and start the worship service. And then sometimes, and this isn't as common now as it was a few years back, but they'll have a welcome time or a greeting time. And people take that opportunity and turn and greet their friends and family and others around them. And I've watched first-time guests stand and have people walk all around them to greet people and never greet them. So much so, I've even seen people who have been ignored for so long, they finally just sit down while people are still greeting around them. That is not a welcoming environment. So as a pastor or a church leader, you can help your people understand that. Now, I've used something that's really simple, and I've used it in many congregations to try to help them get this mentality of make sure to welcome the outsider, make sure and welcome the outside guest. It's simply this. I call it the 2 + 2 + 2. It's a 2 + 2 + 2 strategy. The first 2 minutes that you're on the property, in the building, in the sanctuary, wherever it may be, the first 2 minutes you're there, you try to find at least 2 people who you don't know, 2 people who are new, and you go up to greet them. And when you greet them, you don't have to have a long, in-depth conversation. Ask them, do you live in the area? Excuse me, do you live in the area? Do you work close by, etc.? There are lots of questions you can ask. And then that's the 2 + 2. And then the third 2 is after you introduce yourself to these people and just a few niceties, getting to know them, then make sure and introduce them to at least 2 other people. Now, here's how that kind of works. You're meeting, let's just say it's a couple that's a guest, and you come up and you introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Bobby. Good to meet you. You guys new in the area? Well, yeah, we just bought a house. Oh, that's great. Well, what kind of work do you do? Have you already working? Well, yeah, I'm a school teacher and I'm da 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 da. Okay, well, immediately that triggers in my head, oh, I know Bill or Sue or John over here. They also are school teachers in one of the local schools. And I go, oh, well, have you met Bill? He's a school teacher over at so-and-so school. And they go, well, no, I don't. Hey, Bill, come here a second. Let me introduce you to somebody. Now you call them over, introduce them to these new people. Now, what have you done? Every time you do that, you have shown this new person that they are so valuable that you want to make sure and introduce them to one of your other friends. Now, they come over and they start a conversation and meet. Now, hopefully you can find a second person that can connect with them. And if it's not with something common like that, you say, oh, well, have you met John, or have you met Sue, or whatever? And say, well, I want you to meet them. Again, you're affirming their importance, their value, and how glad you are to have them there by introducing them to somebody else. It's just a simple kind of way of helping people to feel welcome and creating a friendly environment, which you do by helping to train your people to be intentional, to be conscious all the time of meeting and greeting new people. Okay, what's the third thing that is most searched for? Worship style and service atmosphere. You know, people are really concerned about where they're going to go. If they've never been there, they don't know what to expect. They have to try to determine what to expect. In fact, a study by Church Answers determined that 74% of people searching for a church, they say style of service was important when they were choosing a church. Now, don't try to please and cater to all music styles. If you try to do that, it's going to kind of make things difficult. It's going to leave more people unhappy than it is happy, most likely, because if you're trying to waver between extremes. Now, I'm not talking about a good blended service. A good blended service can move between hymns and choruses and some contemporary, but you're using the same kind of instrumentation, the same leaders, that kind of thing. You're not trying to make drastic changes in the worship style. I have a friend who years ago, I remember we had this conversation. He's a church planter, actually. And their church, he said he had considered trying to have multiple styles of music. And then he had considered trying to have more than one service. They were at a size they could go to more than one service, and they did. And he thought, well, we'll just have one service for one kind of worship, one service, another kind of worship style. And we were talking about kind of processing that out. And I said, why are you so concerned about that? He goes, because the most important thing is that people come to hear the message of God preached, that they hear about the salvation of Jesus Christ. Okay, thumbs up. I get that. And then he said this, which always kind of set me back. And I thought, it makes sense. And it shows his commitment to the Great Commission in that community. And what he said was, you know, if the most accepted kind of music in the community where I was planting was rap, he said our service would be led by Christian music that was a rap style, and even music that we wrote that was a rap style. And he said, I hate rap more than anything in the world. He said, I despise it. I can't stand it. It has no value at all to me. He said, but if that was the most accepted kind of music in that community, then I would insist that that's what we had in the worship service, Christian rap music, because that was going to best connect with the people we're trying to share the message of Jesus Christ with. How important is it to understand that the worship style and service atmosphere is one of the top things? So be very intentional. Ask yourself, what intentional decisions have we made around our worship style? Now, as you're moving forward and thinking about how people find out about that before they even get inside the building, put a music tab on your website, or maybe not a music, a media. That's a better heading, but a media tab where you can have parts of the worship service. You can have clips of music. You can have the sermons broadcast, that kind of thing. So there are places and ways you can do that. You can also do that if you have a Facebook or Instagram page. You're using that as part of your online presence. Well, then you can present those worship styles there so that when people are searching online, they have some good sense, a good idea of what to expect when they arrive at that time. All right. what is the fourth thing? The fourth thing, sorry, my voice is going. What is the fourth thing that people search for when they're looking for a church? Location and accessibility. Location and accessibility. In fact, we found that 70% named location or ease of access and convenience as important to finding a church. That's from a study done by Church Job Finder. How important is that? What we have to remember is the front door for the church now is not the physical doors. In fact, that went away a good number of years ago now. The foyer, the front door for your church now is your online presence. In fact, it's really important that you understand that you're investing in what you're doing online and you're training people that online is very important, that people understand how important it is to share a link to your website, share a link to events that are happening on the website, things that drive people to your website and help them to see that. Now, how does this help with location and accessibility? Well, you may have a photo of your church building online, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more later why you don't want that to be the main thing, especially on the homepage of your website. But the online presence is where people are going to first go and check out your church. Remember, 80% are looking at the church online before they actually come in the door. So what do they see? Well, you also need in your community professional signage. If you're in an open country or a rural area, you may have key signs at the main roads that are coming in into that small community. That way, when people are driving in, they see a big sign, has the church logo and not too many words, but something simply to say, hey, you're welcome here. We want you to come here. So someone who has found you online and is driving into your community to find your church easily sees as they're coming in, they're reminded, oh, there's the church. That's First Baptist. That's Calvary. That's whatever the name of your church is. And they can find the church easily. But having professional signage is very important. And then the third thing is physically, what are you doing to help them when they arrive? Accessibility is a big thing, very important. And you need to make sure people know if, for instance, you're in a wheelchair, or if you're older and can't climb a bunch of stairs, here's where to come in. One time, I was transitional pastor for a church, and we were having a big push coming up to, I can't remember, maybe an Easter or a high attendance day or something, and we were building our online presence. And one day, the majority of people came from one direction up one main highway. It was a two-lane highway that came right up by the church. And so I thought, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do a live kind of online video of coming up to the church. And so that's what I did. I got several blocks away and I just started the video saying, hey, I'm on the way to the church. And I want to show you, it's easy to get to, and I want to show you how to come in. And I had the camera obviously going as we were driving up to the church. And as we got there, I took the camera off and said, okay, when you get here, we have some parking that's reserved here for guests. If you're a guest and haven't, come and joined our congregation before, right here's where you park. And I showed them the signs and how to pull in. And I said, then you walk right up this sidewalk and here's how you get in. Only one little small step as you come in this front door. Then you come in, and I walked right through the foyer, showed them where we had a very small little welcome table, showed them where that was, told them just stop here. Somebody will be here to greet you and make sure you have any information that you need. And then you're going to hang a right and come right into the sanctuary. And I walked right into the sanctuary and said, and this is where we'll have our worship service. And we just look forward to you joining us. And it was just a simple way to online try to help people feel comfortable with, here's the location. Here's how you come in. Here's how you walk in. Another church where I was a transitional pastor had a huge stairway going in the front doors. As you would think, if I'm a guest, I don't want to weave my way in the back. I want to come in, the front. But if you have a hard time climbing stairs, that's a big deal. So we did something similar and showed people how they could come in up kind of a courtyard that was beside the sanctuary and then walk in. You just kind of made a U-turn and came in the other doors coming into the sanctuary. So think about that. Remember, people want to know how easy it is to get in. They want to know where your location is, what you're close to. If there is some kind of a business that is well known in the area, especially like maybe an eating place or something, you can simply identify your location by saying something as simple as, where the Taco Bell is in downtown so-and-so, go two blocks past the Taco Bell, hang a right, and we're 2 blocks up on the left. Just make it simple. Very easy to do that and clarify. Okay, what is the fifth thing that is the most searched thing of interest for people searching on Google? The fifth thing is programs for children and families. Programs for children and families. Over half, in fact, 56% in a Pew Research study of all searches, 56% of searches said that children's or educational programs were very important. And for parents who have minors, that's even more important as they're searching for a place where their kids can fit in. Now, if you're in a SAC church, a smaller attendance church congregation, you don't have the big programs. You can't highlight, here's this big program and that big program and this group and that group. But what you can do is you can highlight the things that your congregation provides and how good it is. The significance of the family being together, the family worshiping together, all kinds of things. Think about what makes us so good at who we are as a smaller attendance congregation. How do you prioritize resources and activities for children and families? What kind of ministries do you have that reach out to them? It may be something as simple as a pool party or a hike in the woods or other things. Make sure you're highlighting those things on a regular basis. Give adequate promotion. Start promoting things 6 or 7 weeks before they happen, online, on your Facebook page, on your Instagram page, whatever it is you're using. Make sure that is a priority. So when people are searching and they put this in their search for our church, they're finding the significance of your priority for children and families. Now, how do you show that your church values families and not just adult ministry? Smaller and older congregations sometimes tend to just focus on, here's this adult activity, here's that adult activity, and they're getting older and older and they're not attracting children. So you have to really make that a priority. Again, don't try to be like the big church. You're not in competition with the big church. A smaller attendance church has things that the big church cannot provide. So focus first on what you do best, not trying to appear to be competitive for certain. Okay, what is the sixth thing that people search for? They search for a place to belong, community, relationships, and belonging. These are key phrases that are searched for when people are looking for churches. In fact, searchers frequently mention things like friendship, relational fit. They ask things like, do I see people like me? And will I fit in? These are critical things. Now, let me pause for a second here and talk about your online presence. You need to communicate through your online presence that people will fit in. Don't have photos of just your church building to start with. People aren't really interested in building. In fact, we find that less than 1%, if I remember, that may have been updated recently, but less than 1% of people actually go to a church because they see the structure. The structure is very unimportant. Now, that's not saying don't take care of your building. Your building needs to be clean and easy to access and all those other kind of things. That's all important, but don't focus on that in your online presence. Remember, online is your new front door. That's the front door people are looking at and checking out before they come in. So don't focus on building, but focus on pictures of people that have happy faces, fun activities, friendly interactions. I remember this was a number of years ago, but I was pastoring the First Baptist Church in a community in Oklahoma before we went as missionaries to Michigan. And we had a small balcony in the church. And in the church one Easter Sunday, we'd had a big push, and we're really pushing to try to get people there. And on that Sunday, when we had great attendance, I got a photographer to go stand up there in the balcony. And in the balcony, when we had a welcome time, which we did at that time, if you don't do a welcome time, you can do it almost any time before or after the service when people are interacting. But what we did is during that time, I told the photographer, when we start that, it's not long, 30, 45 seconds long. You start clicking off pictures, click, 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 click. You just take a bunch of pictures of people who are hugging each other, who are looking at each other, smiling, who are interacting. And he got pictures all across the congregation. And we did a brochure, and we had built a website and those kind of things. And those were the pictures we put on there. We had one picture of the church building, and that was it. Everything else featured happy people, friendly people. We had covered dish meals on a regular basis, and we'd have great pictures of people sitting around the table. And just think about all of the great opportunities where you can get photos of people that are happy. That represents a warm, accepting kind of community. People, especially older folks, are looking for places to interact, places where they can, what we would call fellowship together. But that is a high response. They want to know, will I fit in? So they're looking. Do you have to be in a suit and tie for men? Oh, look, no, man. Those men are in cowboy boots and blue jeans and just looks like a button-down shirt or something, or a flannel shirt or whatever. Look, the ladies aren't dressed at all with bonnets and gloves or something. They're looking at the people. Oh, they look normal. They look just like me. And I cannot tell you how important that is, communicating to people that will feel comfortable or more comfortable when they come and join your congregation. The other thing I want to mention when we're talking about how do we avoid the what should we call it? The Sunday spectator kind of a thing. The most important thing that I tell churches, especially smaller attendance churches, it's okay to have a worship team or a worship band or a worship leader with other singers or whatever. A lot of churches no longer have like a choir and that kind of thing, but you may have other kinds of leadership. But the most important thing for engaging people and getting away from this spectator kind of a celebrity kind of a worship style is to make sure you're having things that people can sing with, congregational singing. It may be hymns, even if the hymns, I remember one of my friends who was a church planner, he said, man, we have so many people that have moved to the area that have joined that aren't new converts, that they really enjoy singing some of those hymns. And the hymns are so powerful with the gospel in them that we wanted to do it, but we didn't want to do it like with a pipe organ kind of sound. And so they updated the sound of it and taught their people the hymns and various hymns, but they did it in a more contemporary kind of way. And most of the songs this church plant did, as many others that I've known, they had almost all congregational singing, except for maybe one song or maybe two songs in the whole worship set that was done before the pastor got up to preach. Really important. Engage and involve the congregation. Very, very important to include congregational singing. Remember, you're building expectations online before people actually come through the physical door. And you can do that with your clips of music, clips of singing, clips of solos, clips of groups, clips of the preaching, etc., etc. So that's very, very important. All right. What is the seventh most searched thing on Google? It goes back to leadership integrity, discipleship, and theological clarity. The mission of the church, what are you doing? The discipleship and theological clarity. Now, people want to know who the leaders are. Okay, jump again, your online presence. Make sure that there is a place for leadership, our staff, however you want to lead it or label it, but make sure that's an easy to find feature on your website. And frequently have things that are posted on your social media that feature those leaders and them doing something, saying something, a clip of a message, a clip of a devotion, a clip of something. Those kind of things help to communicate that to the new person who is seeking a church. And this is one of those searched things that people do. So once they get serious searching, they start asking things like, what is the mission? What is the vision of the church? What do they believe? How are they discipling? Now, remember, you're in an online world, so you don't want this like churches. I'm Southern Baptist, so if you're a Baptist church, you might say, okay, we adhere to the 2000 version of the Baptist Faith and Message. Well, if you go and clip that and put it on your website, that thing is so many pages long. It is so in depth. You don't want to have that. It's just too much. People who are serious, they're searching, they're looking for theological quality and integrity of that leadership to that. So you might take the top 6 or 7 doctrines that you think are the most important in your congregation in that place, do a summary of those, and then at the bottom put a link. If you'd like to read the Baptist Faith and Message 2000, this is what we try to adhere to, and put an in-depth page there, a link to that, or maybe a sub page that link to that. If you use some other type of approach, then do the same thing. Don't put the in-depth thing as the first thing they find. Give people the opportunity to look at a good overview, and then they can go deeper, even deeper if they choose to. That's great. But they want to know who the leadership is. So make sure and give enough description of each of your key leaders that they kind of have a feeling they know who that person is before they walk through the door. Leadership is one of the key things that people are searching for when they hit your website. So make sure you do that. Now, how do you articulate your church's mission or vision in a way that resonates with searchers? Well, you don't want a vision or mission statement that is so long. I mean, 15 or 20 sentences long. You need something that people can articulate, that if asked a church member, tell us what the vision of the church is, tell us what the mission of the church is, they can say that back to you. And I don't mean quoting a long thing, but they grasp it. You've taught it to them. You've helped them understand. And if it's in line, like for instance, with the Great Commission and the Great Commandment, and you've wrapped that into your kind of vision mission, then you want people to be able to repeat that, to understand that. There was a study done, I believe it was by Lifeway a number of years ago, but they asked a bunch of church members as they were doing a consultation to tell them what was the church's mission. And none of the people in the church could articulate that. They asked the pastor, and he was fairly clear. They asked the church staff, as they had several church staff in this church, and they had a rough idea, but it wasn't clear. So this is really important that it's communicated. Now, one of the things I've often done, I'll shorten that down and try to come up with, I guess in marketing, you call it a tagline, but something that was easy to say, something I could repeat frequently from the pulpit. I could wrap into a message and say, this is why we are. I could even in a prayer say, Lord, we thank you for helping us to try to be this kind of church. Or even something that I would ask our people, say, folks, remember, so-and-so Baptist Church, we exist to what? And then we would say it. For instance, one of the things that I used, and we've used this as I was trying to teach our church to be committed to the Great Commission and the Great Commandment, a simple phrase, connecting people to Jesus and each other. We're a church that wants to be what? Connecting people to Jesus and each other. How important is that? To be connecting people to Jesus and each other. That could be on every printed, if you're using a printed bulletin, it could be on every printed bulletin. It could be on the header of the website. It could be repeatedly used in posts and other kinds of things. If you're handing out something, it could be there. It could be on your stationery. If you're sending out something through the mail, it could be on all the business cards. It could be everywhere. And you can frequently get up and say, folks, remember why we're here, because we're a church that wants to be what? Connecting people to Jesus and each other. And of course, you can have slides, put that up on the screen. Even if you have, I hate to use the word commercial, but it's commercials for what you're doing before or after the service, your announcements, and you're scrolling through slides. If you're doing that on a rotating basis as it's looping before the service or after the service, put a slide in there that has this phrase on it, connecting people to Jesus and each other. A great phrase, but you'll come up with something that you can use that identifies your church and helps your church to know exactly who they are as you're trying to communicate that to the community and the world. Well, that wraps it up for us. Let's wrap it up. Let me give you a summary again. These are the top things that people are searching for as they search for a church in Google. Now, here they are again. Number one, quality and relevance of preaching. Quality and relevance of preaching. Well, let's get this number 7 off first. There we go. Okay. Number 1, quality and relevance of preaching. Number 2, feeling welcomed and a friendly environment. Feeling welcomed and a friendly environment. Number 3, worship style and service atmosphere. Worship style and service atmosphere. Number 4, location and accessibility. Number 5 is programs for children or families. Very important to find that and have that, try to help people understand, hey, we're here for children and for families. Number 6, community. Integrity, mission, discipleship, and theological clarity. That wraps it up. Try to help communicate those things in your community so people will find you.